Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we got something totally different. We are not going to be working on the Taco today. We're going to be installing some parts on my buddy's 4Runner today. Just got him up to 33s and on some Falcon wheels. Stance on them is already pretty crazy, but he is rubbing a little bit on the front bumper. So today we're just going to put on a spacer lift here. So about two-ish inches in the front and leveling kit in the back. And then we're throwing on some OMT wheel spacers, which are exactly what I'm running on mine. So I'm on Falcon wheels with OMT spacers, and they are 1 1/4 inches. So basically today what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you guys how we're gonna get it done. It is gonna be a little bit different than how the Tacoma would be. The front is relatively the same. We'll end up just putting the spacer there. But in the back, we're gonna put that spacer on the coils. So that'll be fun. We're gonna get in on this. So far, I have just loosened up the front lug nuts on the front tires and just jacked it up and then get my jack stands under there just for safety. Yeah, I'm gonna get those off and then we're gonna get rolling on putting in those spacers. I don't think it should be or take too long since I've done this before, so we'll take a look, but we're gonna get this thing stanced out and mean. Let's see, this is the stance right now. Those wheels are -38 offset, and they're gonna stick out like mine do by the end of this, so oh, it's gonna be clean. But yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll get right into it. All right guys, so I got this passenger side done. Got the spacer right there, and the other spacer right there. So this one I was definitely running into some issues. I even cut my finger open. Getting that shock out with the sway bar is just killer. But this side, this is one I kind of want to show you guys what's going on now that I figured out the fast way to get those out. So I've gone ahead, taking the tire off, popped out the bolt for the shock. And then I just loosen just this back part of the lower control arm. So that way when I undo it, it can drop. And then you'll just end up undoing, let's see, a couple, those bolts there at the bottom of the lower control arm. Undo those, just that way it's free. This isn't going to drop because it's already drooped out as far as it'll go. And then you just got the 3 bolts back here, so 1, 2, and then the third one's back there, and it's always a pain. But once you do that, I use the jack here and I lift the rotor up, so that way the upper control arm is sitting at a regular height. It moves the sway bar out of the way, and I use my foot because I don't want to have them get in alignment after this. I push it down, and then the shock just goes out. So it took me a couple hours on the other side to try and figure out how I wanted to get it out, because on my truck, I removed the sway bar and it makes it a lot easier to reach things. But yeah, so I'm getting on that, and when I get the shock out, I'll show you guys exactly what I got going on next. Be right back. All right guys, well, that was a bear, but I got it out. And the only way I was really able to get it out is I had to loosen up the front of the lower control arm to get it to bend just enough. I loosened it just a little bit, so it shouldn't mess with the alignment at all. But yeah, I did that, and it came right out, which was nice. So basically, I'm gonna give you guys a little rundown of what we're gonna be doing here. So, got the shock out, and we're gonna take our little 2-inch spacer here, and I believe these are just KSP spacers. They're super affordable, so yeah, and honestly, they're pretty nice. But basically, just gonna put it on top of the whatever it's called, these spokes that you got here. And then you take the bolts, the stock bolts that generally are right there. You're gonna take them and then you thread them onto that. And then you wanna get those down as tight as you can. And then from there, when we end up putting it back in, we'll use the supplied hardware, and these basically will end up replacing where these were at. These will just go right in there. Don't drop it though. So that's essentially the plan. I'm gonna get that tightened down and get it back in there, and then throwing the spacer on right after that. So I'll get back to you guys as soon as I'm getting the spacer on. All right guys, so we got the shock back in, mounted down in place. Everything else bolted back in. It's time to do the spacer. So essentially what you're gonna do is you're gonna take these bolts off that come pre-threaded on here, and you basically are just gonna end up throwing this on, and you'll put those in where those holes go, and you'll have it facing this way. Sorry, that's shiny. So rounded end goes in right there. Basically, I am gonna put the supplied Loctite on these first. So I'll put them on that, just a little bit more than a drop. Like, you don't really need a lot. It's pretty strong stuff. So I'm gonna put them on every single one of them, throw this on, get the bolts threaded on there, and then yeah, we'll go from there. Hey guys, so it is the next day. We got the front of the suspension completely on that little spacer lift there. And honestly, it's looking pretty good. So definitely for a cost-effective way to lift your vehicle, spacers are pretty good, especially depending on what you want to do. If you're wanting to just do like weekend warrior stuff, just some light trails, spacer lifts are totally fine. We did get the spacers on all 4 tires as well, so it does give it a pretty nice stance. I will show you guys what it looks like once we get the rear done. So basically what we're gonna do today, we're gonna get the rear lift back, which is this right here. It's basically gonna sit on the top of the coils here. So we need to get them out. And the way I'm doing that is I do have 2 jacks, jack stands right there. You can see one of them. Basically I have them right where the links or the trailing arms, where those are going, just right there on the mount is where I have them placed. And then we've got the jack on the axle just to get it all the way up. Took the tires off on both sides. And what we're gonna do first here is gonna undo the sway bar links back here. So we're gonna take off the top nut, which is a 12mm bolt. And we're also gonna hold the bottom one because it will want to spin. So most of the time you can just hold it with your hand while you're loosening it. But if it is a little tight for you, you can use another tool to hold it in place. And then we're gonna undo the top of the shock, so that way when we're drooping out each side, it can, excuse me, it can fully droop down and get the travel. So basically what's gonna happen is, I don't have a spring compressing tool, and I don't really wanna use this since they're kind of dangerous. We're gonna droop it all the way, and we should be able to just get it free. And with this spacer, I don't know if we're gonna need to keep the secondary bump stop in there, since we already have this one right here. This one in the inside of the coil isn't really necessary. So we'll see if it is even reusable with this kit. So I'll let you guys know that, but what I'm gonna start off doing first is I'm gonna undo these 2 bolts. I think I may also undo the brake line bolt, just because I don't want the brake line getting seized or anything like that. So yeah, I might end up doing that. So, and I believe, yeah, like I said, it's another 12mm bolt. So if you're already doing that one, might as well just do the other one. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get going on that, and then I'll show you guys how to go from there. Okay guys, so change of plan. Instead of taking the bolt off up here, I just took the one off the bottom and I just pushed it out. So, excuse me, it was a little bit easier. Basically what I did, and you guys don't need to worry about this, I was honestly a little iffy on dropping this down. So basically, these trailing arms are only gonna let the axle drop down a certain amount, especially if we leave the shock on the other side bolted up, it's not gonna fall. So when I was lowering the jack down, yeah, it holds itself up that way. So then I just jacked up the other side, let this side droop down, and as you can see here, coil's now loose. I may need to raise it up just a little bit more so I can get it out. It's almost there, but yeah, just wanted to give you guys an update there with that. And I did undo the brake line. As you see, that thing's still got a lot of motion that it can do. So yep, I'm gonna go ahead and I think I am gonna jack that side up just a little bit more to get this loose. And then from there, we throw this on. So I'll get back to you guys as soon as I get it out. All right guys, so I did get it out, and yeah, I just need to jack it up just a little bit more and it just comes right out. So basically what'll happen is this bump stop right here will just be sitting on top of the coil, and you're gonna take your spacer here and put it on top. Basically get in there as much as you can. When it's sitting flat, it's still gonna be loose like that, but the pressure in there is gonna keep it there so it's not going anywhere at all. And I did test fit this as well, and it just fits flush right back on top. So I will just put those back on together. And yeah, so now all I have to do is just get it back up inside, and I may need to droop it down a little bit more to make up for the amount of lift that we have here. And then once that happens, I can then lower that side down, jack it back up, bolt this all back in, and then repeat the same process on the other side. So honestly, this is way simpler and so much more easy than the front was. The front, like putting those spaces on it, you had to take apart so many things and fiddle around, maneuver things, and this is just, it's so much easier, you guys. So honestly, if you are thinking about doing this, yeah, definitely do the front first, because then this will feel like a piece of cake. So if you do this first and then go to the front, you're gonna hate your life. So yeah, yep, I'm gonna go ahead and get this put back in, and then I will get right back to you guys on how to do the rest. All right guys, so I've gone ahead and I've gotten the coil back in with the spacer, and I was able to keep the bump stop in there as well. I also did on the other side, and I have bolted everything back up. I did want to let you guys know I ran into one little snag. While it was completely drooped out where I couldn't get it to go anymore based on just its droop alone, because I was like needing this much more space in order to get the coil back in, I did take the bottle jack that comes stock with these vehicles, and I put it on the top of the axle here, and then I took, I don't know where I put my other 2x4, but took one of these, and I already had one that was cut shorter, and I just used the horizontal side of it just to add a little bit more space in between this bump stop right here, and I just used it to just twist it a little bit with my hand just to get it a little bit more space than what I could just push on with my own weight here, and it gave me just enough room to be able to pop that sucker in there on both sides. So that'll make it so much easier if you just have it jacked up on one side, let it droop all the way down, and then put that bottle jack there and just give it a little bit more, and then you can put it in there just fine, drop the jack down, bolt everything back up, and you're chilling. I do also want to point out is it is much easier if you have both of the trailing arm links disconnected. So you just unbolt it and fold them downwards. Otherwise they're just going to get wedged up somewhere when you're trying to jack up the other side. So let those hang down, and just make sure that the shock down here on the bottom is away, like move it away from any bolts, because it can also get hung up on stuff as well. So yeah, just make sure it's clear. And I do recommend taking off the brake line bolt here, just letting it be loose. Like I never had an issue with it being tight, but just in case you don't want that getting pulled or anything like that. But in all, like this install, I think, I mean, you're probably not gonna do it right the first time, honestly. I mean, most of the installs, you always run into a snag. When it says it's an hour-long install, expect 3 hours, because there's always gonna be a hang-up somewhere. This took about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours for me to do. I actually don't even know what time it is, so it could have been less, I don't know. But it was very easy. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the tires put back on, bolt those down, and I'll give you guys a walk around on the lift that we've got going for this 4Runner. All right guys, so we got the tires back on. There's a lift, so it adds about 2-3 inches of lift there in the back. And then we've also got that one up there in the front. Just a spacer over there. And spacer in the back. So these are KSP leveling kits. And I will say, I kind of wish they came with directions just so I kind of had something to follow along with a little bit. But honestly, YouTube comes in clutch when you're trying to figure things out. So, yep. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna take it for a quick little ride around the block, just make sure everything feels good. And other than that though, that'll be a wrap for that. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. It is fairly similar to the Tacoma, at least front-wise. Back, not at all, but yeah, hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and thanks for watching. See ya.